What's up, you guys? For today's video, we are going to be trying out the brand called Spoil Lips, and honestly, I'm super excited. I have never heard about their brand before they reached out to me, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of indie brands. I feel like they're so underrated and just pretty much the diamond in the rough. I feel like a lot of indie brands carry a lot of my holy grail status products and just products that you just never see around on the market. You know, they have more specialized packaging, they have a lot more unique colors and textures to play with, and I just feel like a lot of times we just kind of forget about indie brands. So I thought it'd be really fun if we tried out this brand together today. So Spoil Lips did send me over a couple of different items from their collection just to try out, and one of which is this eyeshadow palette, which is the Volume 7. This palette is definitely going to be my focus of today. And here is the eyeshadow palette up close. Isn't the girl on here just so stinking cute? I really love the packaging of this. I think it's adorable. And then here is the back of the palette. If you're interested, it says Spoiled Cosmetics right here on the back. There's no other text though. And once we open up the palette, as you can see, it does contain a mirror, which is really nice. But here is the color story, which is definitely the most important. And as you can see, there is a ton of different mattes and different textures to play with. And this palette also contains some pressed glitters here on the side over here. Off camera, I did already prime my eyelids, and the first shade that we are going to go into is this kind of bone matte shade, and I'm going to go in with this Real Techniques medium shadow brush. And then with this shade, I'm just going to do a really light dusting to set my eyeshadow primer with. So once you have the eyeshadow primer set, the next shade that I am going to go into is this kind of lighter brown shade with a Makeup of the Day Build and Blend brush. And then with this shade, I'm going to be applying it into my crease and blending it upwards towards my brow. I'm also using it to kind of round out my outer V. We are going to be using this shade as a transition shade. So the next shade that we are going to go into is the dark blue in the palette, and I have a feeling that this is either going to make or break our look, and I'm going to go in with a Sigma E35 blending brush. And I'm just going to be applying this color into my crease and blending it right into that light brown. I'm also using it to kind of round out my outer V a little bit. And when I'm using this shade, I'm doing little circular motions to blend things around. I will say though, that dark blue that I just used is super, super pretty. I really like the consistency of it. Just getting it in my crease, it's absolutely gorgeous. But to blend out the edges, I'm going to take a little bit more of that light brown shade, again on the Makeup of the Day Build and Blend brush, and I'm just going to kind of touch the edge of the blue and blend it into that light brown. Because I don't want to bring the light brown all the way onto the blue, just to kind of clip the edge, just to get rid of that harsh line that we got. So looking dead on, everything looks really blended. However, when I tilt my head to the side, you can definitely see it looks kind of chunky and just, I don't know how else to explain it, but I have this really dark line and it just looks really odd. So I'm going to try to fix the blending process. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that blue shade, again on that Sigma E35. I'm really pressing it into the crease to try to get rid of that harsh line. And I'm also doing little circular motions, blending it upwards. And then next I'm going to take a little bit more of that light brown shade and go right over the edge to try to soften it and kind of get everything a little bit more of a seamless blend. So after doing that, you can definitely see it has gotten a little bit better in my crease area. It's gotten a little bit more blended. However, it seems like the product really lifted in my inner third of my eye. You can kind of see it just has a little bit of a patchy look to it. And not to mention, it seems like my skin doesn't want to hold the pigment over in here, kind of on my brow bone area. It's really weird. But either way, I'm going to kind of finagle this and try to get super blended, just so we can kind of finish the look. So once you have everything blended out, the next shade that I'm going to go into is this kind of burgundy chocolate shade with a Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush. Now trust me, this is going to look super crazy, but I'm going to be pressing this shadow in the outer third of my eye and just a little bit into my crease. Just in this kind of outer third area. I don't want to really bring it inwards. I just want it in this area, so when we do our cut crease, it'll be a lot easier to put this color on top later. And then I'm just going to take whatever is left on that Sigma E35 that had the blue on it, and I'm just going to buff right around the edge of the brown, just to get everything a really nice blend. But yeah, so here is where I'm at right now with the look, and honestly it is super, super grunge, which is definitely up my alley. And you would think with summer coming along, I would want to do the brights and the neons, but you know what? I want all those dark, rich, kind of fall type colors. And what's even funnier is in fall and stuff, I'm always into the brights and the neons. I don't know why I'm like that, but either way, off camera, I'm just going to cut my crease using my absolute favorite concealer, which is the Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Fair. So here is where I'm at right now after cutting my crease, and my concealer is 100% dry, which is a really crucial step. And the next shade that I am going to go into is this really shimmery kind of blue shade with a BH Cosmetics flat shader brush. And then with this brush dampened, I'm going to be applying this shade anywhere that the concealer is showing. Ooh, that shade's really, really, really pretty. Ooh, I like that color a lot. And to help me get rid of that harsh line of the cut crease, I'm going to take a little bit of that brown kind of burgundy shade on this Real Technique shading brush. And I'm going to be packing this on in the outer third of my eye and flecking it inwards towards the blue, just to get a really nice kind of gradient effect. But yeah, so here is where I'm at right now with the look, and honestly, I feel like this look is really like earthy and grungy, which I really like. And then off camera, I'm just going to apply my foundation and all of that. So here is where I'm at right now with the look, and then for the lower lash line, I am first going to line my waterline with this Anastasia Beverly Hills Darkside liner. And I'm just going to do my liner in my waterline, and I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit, because we are going to smoke it downwards. And then before that dries and sets, I'm just going to take this Anastasia A1 brush and then start smoking it downwards just a little bit. I don't want to bring it down too far, because if you bring it down too far, it's going to look like a panda eye. So I'm just kind of buffing out the edge. And then before that dries, I'm just going to take a little bit of that blue shade and go right on top of the black and just kind of smudge it around. And when you're doing this, make sure that you connect it with the kind of like outer corner as well, otherwise you're going to have this weird dip. And then to even help kind of smoke this out even further, I'm going to take a little bit of that light brown that we used originally in the crease for a transition shade. And I'm going to be running this underneath my lashes with a Luxie 231. So this palette doesn't have any inner corner highlight, so I'm going to go in with my Sleek Makeup highlighting palette. This one is in the shade Solstice, and I'm going to go into this kind of like peachy shade with a Luxie pencil brush. And then with my brush dampened, I'm going to pack this into my inner tear duct area and bring it underneath as well to open up the eye. I'm literally packing this shit out of this on, just making sure I'm really pressing that pigment in. But isn't it so stinking pretty? And then I'm also going to run it underneath my brow bone a little bit as well. But yeah, so here is the finished look using the Spoiled Lips palette. I actually really enjoy this look. It's very like grungy and earthy at the same time, which is definitely up my alley. And I also did my brows a little bit different today, and I did like Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow, and I like defined the kind of bottom edge and a little bit on the tail. But otherwise, I use this Milk Makeup Kush Brow Gel in the shade Dutch, and I got like this like really like feathery kind of natural looking brow, and I'm all for it. I don't know, like I sometimes get kind of sick of like that super like drawn on looking brow that I sometimes do, and I just wanted to try something different, and I'm really loving this product. But with that said, I do want to share with you guys my thoughts and opinions about this palette, first of which is the eyeshadow formula. And honestly, I really like the eyeshadow formula of this palette. I think it's really nice. And I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it, because honestly, it's really great quality. The only shadow that I had some issues with was this dark matte blue shade over in here. And I'll be honest, I have this shade in a lot of different brands, formulas, and it's still pretty much the exact same as those. Like, they're just like one of those shades that you just have to keep on like building up and blending out, and you just have to put a little bit more elbow grease to do so. However, after doing all of that work, I still got a really nice blend with it, and I really like the color of it. It's not like too blue, and it doesn't turn too green either. It's just like right in the middle. It's a perfect like 70s like deep blue shade. Another thing that really impresses me about this palette is these shimmers. Like, oh my gosh, they are so stinking nice. They're like the type of shimmer that's like really buttery in the pan, but they don't get like crumbly, and they're just super smooth like when you run your finger over them or when you apply them. Not to mention, like, look at how much like sparkle and shine is in it. I don't know if my camera is like focusing, but it's just so pretty. I mean, like, look at how smooth it is. It's just a really, really nice shade. The biggest downfall to me about this palette is definitely the pressed glitters. Personally, for me, I'm just not the biggest fan of them, and they just don't really make sense in this palette. Like, when you look at them, they just, like, the colors that are selected just don't make sense with the color story. Like, this brighter pinky purple shade doesn't really add up with like the 70s kind of vibe of the colors. And this green down here, it's kind of like an olive green with like purpley pink kind of glitters to it, which also doesn't make sense. And another thing that I don't like about these glitters is like when you apply them to your skin, they have like a gritty texture to them, and it just feels really odd. Not to mention, like, they're just not that pigmented. Like, certain ones are a little bit better than others. Like the top kind of like iridescent kind of white one is okay, but the rest, like, they just don't have a lot of glitter to them. And when I think of like a kind of like pressed glitter, I think of like crazy like pigmented glitter. Like you barely touch your finger in the pan and like when you swipe it on your skin, it's just like crazy amounts of glitter. But these ones are like super sparse, and to me they're just not that great. And the last like downside to this palette is kind of like a personal preference and just kind of like me kind of being a little bit picky. But I feel like the palette itself might not be that great of quality. Like when you're starting to look like in between your shadows, it's like the like blue part, if it's like a sticker or like some form of like paper, is kind of like bubbling a little bit. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it just seems like it has like a bubbling effect kind of coming. And I haven't even used this palette more than today. You can kind of see it between some of the shadows. And also with the pressed glitters in the palette, you can kind of see like it's like water staining the paper kind of around them. So I don't really like the packaging. I feel like it could have maybe been like a more like a laminated type. Maybe it would have done a little bit better, especially with the pressed glitters in the palette. But for me, I feel like it's just going to kind of get damaged over time. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend this palette to you guys? And for me personally, I really like the pressed version of the eyeshadows. I think they are amazing and really great quality. However, you do want to keep in mind like that darker blue and that darker kind of like burgundy chocolate brown will take a little bit more elbow grease to kind of blend out and build up and just get it to where you want it to be. But if you are okay with that, I think you're really going to like this palette. Not to mention the shimmers have an amazing formula. They're really buttery and really smooth and really easy to work with. I would feel like this palette would be great for beginners as long as you are okay with taking a little bit extra time to do your makeup. However, if you are like me and you don't like pressed glitters, do take in consideration that there are only 16 shades in this palette, and if you don't use 4 of them, which are the pressed glitters, you're only pretty much using 12 eyeshadows. So you do want to keep that in mind as well. And I also want to mention, if you are like me and you like a blinding inner corner highlight, you are going to have to either go into your highlighter or a different palette to do so. Since this palette does not have an inner corner highlight, I mean, it's not like the biggest deal because for me personally, sometimes I really like using a highlighter in my inner corner anyways, because I kind of like that matchy-matchy kind of thing, like where your inner corner, your brow bone, and your face all match. But if you are into like a one palette type of deal, you may not like that you're going to have to use another one. But honestly, I don't feel like it's a deal breaker for me. But with that said, I do want to share with you guys some swatches of this palette, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to split like the pressed version from the kind of like pressed glitters just to make it a little bit easier, and how I'm going to do that is go from top to bottom. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what your thoughts are on this look as well as this palette. I would love to hear what you guys think as well. And as always, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram account is @lethal_kitten. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye!